What's up YouTube? It's your boy Mike here from People's Choice Gaming, and today I have a Damage 2.0 video for you. This is going to be part 1 of a 2-part mini-series I'm going to do for you guys. And this first video is going to be a general overview with the graph you're looking at being a reference point. And the second part of the video is going to be a more in-depth, advanced take where I explain some bugs, I explain builds, and I explain application, because even some of you that understand what's going on in this graph, the problem is you get the graph, but you don't get the application of it. So that's going to be what part 2 is about, where I get into that. And sorry I couldn't get the video out to you sooner. I did talk to my good friend Magamu, and had him put one out a few days ago to help you guys out while I was gone. I was at MLG, the biggest gaming championships, of the year this weekend. So I got a little bit of testing done before I left, but just figure all armor, all enemies, all mods, all weapons, everything in the game was changed. So basically everything that Warframe did, I had to redo it. Meaning I had to test every little thing they did to make sure my info is going to be accurate. So that's why stuff like this takes so long to put out. So let's jump right into it. In this overview vid, I want to talk about mainly the stuff you see here. Physical damage, elements, combined elements, and procs. And then I will talk about the application of all these things in the second part of the video. So let's start first with physical damage. It used to be in Damage 1.0 that if a weapon was 100 damage and its weapon damage type was serrated blade, then all 100 damage was serrated blade. Now, DE needed to change this. The game was getting very boring, had no variety. Considering every enemy had armor, everybody would use the best armor ignore weapons. Poison, serrated blade, stuff like that. And it made no sense that a weapon would just, tear up on infested and Grineer. That is the exact definition of OP, and that's not a well-rounded game. They knew this, and this is why they had to fix it. So now our new physical damage types are impact, puncture, and slash. So what does this mean to you? Well, first off, when you pull a weapon out, its base damage type can either be basically an elemental damage type, or it can be a physical damage type for its base damage. Elemental damage types would be like the synapse being electrical, the ignis being heat, and if you remember, that's exactly how it was in Damage 1.0, so that nothing's changing there. But physical damage is what's changed. Instead of just telling us a weapon has 100 damage and saying it's armor ignore, we now have it broke up 3 different ways. So now a weapon either has, impact, puncture, and slash, or it could have just 2 of the 3. But regardless, you add up all 3 of these, impact, puncture, and slash. That's how you get your new total base damage of the weapon. Now, this is before any mods or anything, so, it might not be the total damage in the end, after you start modding it, of course. It's just your total base damage. And you always have to know your total base damage to do the math to figure out the damages of everything else, like mods and crits. So, I'm not going to go over every little piece of this graph because you can see it with your eyes right here. I'll just tell you what the graph means. So let's start with impact on the left here. It says 50 next to shield. What does that mean to you? Well, that means that impact damage does a 50% bonus to shields. So what does 0 next to armor mean? That means there is no bonus to armor. But that's not a bad thing. It just means it'll do full damage to armor. Just no extra damage, no bonus. And then the negative 50 next to infested means it does 50% less damage. So you have to take 50% damage away. So what I just told you, you can look through, all these, on your own time to check everything out. Now, shields, you guys know what those are. Shields on Corpus. Armor, That's armor on Grenier. Flesh is meant to be like just straight health, and I'll get into that in a minute. Infested is infested, and robotic is like MOAs, shield ospreys, drones. Some of the enemy types in the Corpus faction. Now, impact is best against shields, we can tell from the graph, and robotic. So if you pull a weapon out that does, a certain amount of damage, and very little of it is puncture and slash, but a lot of the total damage is impact, then that's a weapon that you're definitely going to want to take against Corpus. Okay, very easy to understand. Why? Because impact is best against Corpus. Now, puncture does 50% bonus against armor and robotic, and negative 50 against infested. And this is just like it was in Damage 1.0, if you remember. Remember our armor piercing mod and how it acted like an elemental mod? Well, that's not true anymore. Now our armor piercing mod is a physical damage mod. It will increase your puncture. And you all remember, well, you should know, that ever since back in the day, puncture did a negative 50% against infested, and it still does. So still, nothing really changing yet. Slash damage. Slash damage, you can already guess, does 50% bonus against flesh and infested, and negative 50 against robotic. And the slash is going to be best for infested, and puncture is best for Grenier. So with that said, that's going to give you an idea of what you want to take when you're going up against different, enemies. And now, talking about how much health and armor and shields enemies have and getting into all that, that's going to be part 2 of the video. And you definitely need to watch that video that I'm going to put out after this so you can apply all this information better. Apply it all better. Alright, now let's talk about elements. Heat, cold, electricity, and toxic. So the new one added is toxic. And the mods are already in the game. Go on Wiki and you can find where they drop from. And they are out for the rifle and the melee. And the one for the pistol was out for a little bit. I know some of my friends got it, but now it was taken out of the loot table. And I don't know why. I'm sure they'll add it right back. But anyways, toxic is the new element. And the one that was taken away is the armor piercing mod. It does not act like an elemental anymore, which made no sense before. That's why they fixed it. The armor piercing mod now goes against puncture. And to go back to physical damage real quick, we have new mods that will give you a bonus to your impact and to your slash. So you have slash mods, impact mods, which are new, and then puncture mods, which we've had. It's our armor piercing mod. And that's how you change your physical damage. Now for the elements, toxin's the new one. We have heat, cold, electricity. Heat is the best against infested, like it always was. Cold, best against corpus, like it always was. Electricity, still corpus, but this time, it just gives a bonus against robotic. Toxic is not armor ignore anymore. It's not like poison. It's not armor ignore. In fact, throw the words armor ignore right out the window. That does not exist anymore. Toxic gives a 50% bonus to flesh, which is a cool way to, which is kind of neat. It does no bonus against armor, and it does negative 50 against robotic. Now this is the I don't know. I kind of would disagree with this. It would make more sense if toxic also probably did some damage to robotic, because if you think toxic and poison getting on, metal or robotic, wouldn't it like corrode it and mess it up? I don't know. But anyways, just look at the graph here, and that's how you know. So now heat's good. Heat would be best to put on for infested. Cold for shields. Electricity, for corpus as well. But as far as Grenier go, for elements, no elements give a bonus to armor by themselves. This is where I get into the new combined elements. This is completely new for Damage 2.0. Very simple, guys. This is all it is. You take one element and then you take a second element and you put both of them on your build. Just two, let's say for now. If you put two of those on, they're going to make a new combined element. And the individual bonuses from each individual element is no more. You now are going to get bonuses for the new combined element. So look at the new combined element as a whole new elemental mod. Just look at it that way to understand it, as easy as possible. And to get the damage value of your new combined element, what they do is they take the damage that let's say we're putting heat and cold on. They take the damage of your heat mod, the damage of your cold mod, they add them together. That's now your total damage for your new combined element. They are blast, radiation, gas, magnetic, viral, and corrosive. Really quick, all I'm going to let you know is corrosive is best against Grineer, magnetic is best against Corpus, and when the flesh bug gets fixed, viral will be best. And I'll get to the flesh bug right after I talk about some values here. So, if you look through, they all got bonuses. Corrosive is electric plus toxic. It does 75% bonus to armor. Now, toxic does no bonus against armor, and neither does electricity. But when you put them together, you get a whole new mod. Okay, that's why you have to look at it as a whole new mod. And it does 75% bonus against armor, 50% bonus against robotic. So if you look down the line, 0, 0, 25, 0, 25. 75 is the highest, it's the best. So corrosive is your best comboed, new element for Grineer. Magnetic, Corpus. And when it's fixed, viral for infested. Until then, just stack heat elements for infested. Just use the old builds that I always gave you for infested until viral gets fixed. So what's wrong with viral? Well, we have a problem with flesh. I went and did some testing. I've tested it many ways. I know it's accurate. And basically, you could just test it with the heat mod. So, the heat mod does 50% bonus against infested. So I went up, killed some infested, and I did the math, and I was doing 50% bonus with my heat mod. Or, like Hellfire. But that 75% bonus against flesh, it wasn't there, because flesh does not give you a bonus. It's broken right now. So therefore, viral, which gives you a 100% bonus against flesh, it won't do it because it's broke. Now when DE fixes this, then you're going to want to put cold and toxin on together to make viral when you go up against infested as your best combined element. But until it's fixed though, just use as much fire as you can. So wildfire and hellfire for primary. Now, last part of this video I want to talk about. Well, before I get to procs, one more thing, and I'll explain this more in part 2. When it comes to your combined elements, it goes in a priority just like Sentinels, from your top left of your build to your bottom right. So whatever you put up in the top left first are going to be the mods that the formula sticks together. So if you put heat and cold in the beginning of your build, it's going to count them together and make a new combined element of blast. And then if you put electricity or any other mod down towards the end of your build, or right after heat and cold, then you'll just have electricity by itself. Just like a normal mod, and it'll do what it says here. But just remember, it goes from top left to bottom right, priority. And you can check yourself, because if you jump out of your build and look at the bottom right in your arsenal, it will say what combined element you're doing. It'll say radiation, gas, magnetic, whatever. Now, procs. What a proc is basically a status. It's basically like, a certain type of debuff you put on an enemy. Each weapon is going to have in the stats something called status, and it's going to have a percent. This is the percent of chance you have with each shot to land a status effect. Now everything can land a status effect. Impact, puncture, slash, heat, cold, electricity, toxic, and then every combined element. Blunt means impact. And the effect of the status is on the right, knockback. So if you look at this chart, it tells you what happens. Why should you not worry about statuses? Well, basically, the weapons right now have a very small amount of statuses. Yes, I know there's a few that have a high amount, like some melee weapons and stuff, but almost all weapons are a few percent up to 10%, which is terrible. Because once you got a decent build made, I mean, most enemies, you know, you're not going to be sitting there shooting them for 10-20 seconds, so they're going to die before you even land one status effect. And even if you do land one status effect, it is not going to do enough damage or have enough of a good effect that is going to counteract how many mod points you lost to mod for status effects. Also, the mods in the game now that add to status effects are percentage based, and they go up to 15%, the one main mod. Now, the Soma has what, 7% status? So what happens when you put a 15% status mod on? Well, 15% times 7 is jack shit. You're going to get like 1 point something percent extra or 2% extra or whatever. I'm not going to do the math right now. But whether you have 7% status or 9%, that's still terrible. Whether you have 10 or 13, it's still terrible. And you know, that's 9 or 11 points or whatever the status mod costs that you could have put a whole nother mod on that could give you plenty more damage and be much more effective. So, you know, don't hate D for this. It's a really cool idea, this whole having procs on everything, but it wasn't executed perfectly yet. So until they up the status percents for all weapons, do not mod for them, pretend they're not in the game, and do not worry about them. Plain and simple. Trust me on that. And basically, that's all I'm going to talk about in this video, so that it's no longer. So it's no longer than it already is. Physical damage, you need to add all these up on your weapon. That gives you your new physical damage. Elemental damage goes off your base damage. So a 90% Hellfire mod, you're going to take that 90% times your total physical damage, which is these three added up. That's going to give you your new damage for your heat mod. Now that's before you add bonuses, and that all depends what you're going up against. This is how you start figuring out what your total damage is. And it is not hard, guys. It is very, very easy. And I'll explain it more in part 2. So I explained this graph pretty well. It should make complete sense to you now. Tune into part 2 so I can show you how you apply all this new information with the game, your build, you know, and what you need to take into your next firefight. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Please tune in for part 2. I don't want to get another 1,000 tweets and emails, you know, if I already explained it. So make sure you watch part 1, part 2, and watch the whole video. And check out my Twitch. The link will be in the description. We almost hit 200 viewers last night after not streaming for a while, so that's really awesome. Once we get to 500 viewers, I will stream for 5 days, and if we keep the 500 throughout 5 days, my Twitch will get sponsored. And then that way you'll have more options you guys can do, like change video settings, you know, for some of you with bad bandwidth that need a lower video setting and stuff like that. So I'll see you guys around. Peace.